Hello everybody at the Schwantz27's channel, it's DJ Vaughn on the Wicked Ones and Twos here to talk to you about the latest patch to Black Ops 4, and this time we're actually treating it like a single game instead of three separate entities by ignoring one or more sections from the title update. It's been a whole month since Black Ops 4 has launched, and now you'll see why it was a bad idea for an October release date, since with this patch our game finally feels like almost a shippable product. But first, since Sony and Activision are both spelt with $signs, we're pleased to make like Jay-Z and reintroduce Nuketown to Black Ops 4, this time with no flair of a year at the end or stylized with a 3, just to drive home the point that you played on this map already so many fucking times, yet are somehow still excited for it in Black Ops 4, despite the fact that it doesn't play anything like the other 3 games with all of the various beepity bops on a cooldown that we added. The map is returning to multiplayer along with the featured playlist update, so everyone can play the new map ad nauseum, because if there's one thing we learned as Call of Duty developers, it's that people actually do want to play the same shit over and over again, thus why we fail to evolve our games. Also, because $60 isn't enough for an entire game anymore, we've added Blackjack to the black market on PlayStation 4 first, with the not as eager to fork out money platform sometime next week, where we generously let you directly buy cosmetics that look like we stuck a graphic designer fresh out of binging YouTube tutorials making them, instead of the past paid a chance to earn them in an RNG loot box. We are going pseudo consumer friendly by having easy mode challenges allow you to skip 1 tier per day, which actually amounts to almost nothing considering you can only skip about 30 more tiers out of 200 until this contraband stream is over in less than a month. But of course we didn't add it in until after we've already gotten tons of money for people paying to skip tiers just to see what happens with our brand new system, so think of it as a PR stunt more than us actually giving a shit about fan backlash. Oh, and since we're showing our hand here as well, we're putting a brand new weapon into Blackout, once again for PlayStation 4 players first, with the Bowie knife in order to get one-hit melee kills, but you'll start screaming out my name in disgust when it's all you find in a gun rush at the start of a match. Extrapolate this new weapon in Blackout for things like multiplayer and zombies, and you'll get the idea that PS4 will get it a week first. We're also celebrating the launch of Nuketown with adding a zombie spawn point on the Nuketown Island in Blackout with a new supply stash location behind the welcome sign, because of course we can't even get the normal zombies mode to work properly, so might as well double down on a disaster by introducing them into a somewhat stable game mode. Also in Blackout, for all platforms, we've unlocked missions for the so-called Icons characters, and not in the Ubisoft iconic sort of way, with Mason, Woods, Reznov, and Menendez, along with adjustments to Nomad's unlocked missions to not depend on your hashtag terrible teammates. On to multiplayer fixes, we've done some more weapon balancing as we've realized that SMGs are still pretty shit according to all of the values in my big black box, and yes, I said box, get your mind out of the gutter, people. The MX-9, GKS, Cordite, and Spitfire all got close range buffs along with increased ADS move speeds. For assault rifles, the Maddox finally caught a nerf, but only in the form of recoil increases for the first and second shots. The KN-57 and Rampart both got buffs for less idle sway and increased range, with the Rampart also getting an additional recoil reduction. For other weapons, the Titan got yet another nerf for reduced speed both with and without stock, and increased sprint out time because it was still a beast of a weapon even though nobody was crying about it on Reddit, due to the fact that people expect LMGs in a Treyarch game to be amazing. The Swordfish also got a slight buff to reduce the time between bursts and idle sway, since we can't make up our minds on how to actually balance this gun since we're buffing it this patch after nerfing it last patch. And of course, everyone is still using the Paladin due to it being far and away the best sniper rifle that could one-shot in the belly button somehow in a game with 150 health. We buffed all of the other sniper rifles, especially the Outlaw. That should make some of you red gunners cry and potentially make up for the death threats that were sent to me when I nerfed the DSR-50 in Black Ops 2. Oh, and since we realize that not everyone loves getting seizures from playing our game, we've nerfed the strobe light operator mod on the SG-12 in terms of both visuals and effect on aim assist for players with inferior input devices. Regular weapons weren't all that were tweaked, as my mountain of data also told me that we need to buff streaks on a cooldown with Fire Breaks Purifier against the Strike team, as he was just showering them with love like I get every day on Twitter, as well as another buff to Prophet's Tempest accuracy and charges no longer being cancelled by explosives. I did bury the lead a little bit here as Ajax got yet another nerf, this time with both the shields getting a slowed while concussed and hit detection issues being fixed, as well as the 9-bang, which we already removed from Blackout because of how bad a design decision this item was. In multiplayer, the effect is reduced by 25%, including having a hipfire accuracy increase when your hands are up, like a black person getting pulled over in America, and will now be countered more effectively by tactical mass, as well as having additional audio cues for when an enemy is charging up this pocket hallucination generator. Speaking of tactical mass, we realized that we never actually coded this perk to work at all, so it will now properly resist 9-bangs, concussions, and razor wire, and the same goes for Flak Jacket with explosive damage. Again, with keeping the theme of coding perks to actually do what they say that they're supposed to do like a good implementer, Dead Silence suppresses sounds related to healing, falling damage, and surfacing after swimming. Since our score streaks are apparently still too devastating, even though most are worse than the support-like specialist weapons, Cold-Blooded now has an increased delay for score streak targeting in order to allow people to run away like a Monty Python tactic. Continuing with multiplayer, we made adjustments to spawns on Arsenal, Seaside, Gridlock, Summon, and Payload as if they're the only maps with spawn problems. For game modes, we're making several changes to Hardcore, including having ricochet damage dealt to potential team-killing players if they shoot a teammate near their care package, because fuck you trolls, even though we've already solved this problem before but forgot about it in our copy-paste job from Black Ops 3. Armor got a buff in Hardcore to counter certain weapons, as well as reducing the base health from 30 to 27 to commemorate Schwantz. I mean, so that low damage weapons like SMGs and pistols can potentially one-hit kill instead of doing what we should do and actually buffing these shitty weapons, because we like this current original Black Ops-esque meta of having assault rifles being the only viable weapons. In Heist, we've increased the cost of the Shock Seeker, Hellstorm, and Lightning Strike so that the mode doesn't get as annoying as non-respawn ones, and in S&D, we fixed a crazy bug where a team would get an additional round win if the last enemy was killed as the bomb detonated, because race conditions are fun. Lastly, in game modes, we've made a CWL rule set for hardpoint control in S&D, which can be equipped in the custom matches, and it's constantly updated when pro players who definitely have our development ears whine about some of the bad design decisions that we've made with the game, like nerfing Barricade, Razor Wire, Sensor Dart, Tac Deploy, Reactor Core, and Mesh Mines just for those particular rules. Finally, let's talk about zombies. Jason Blundell and the team are going to be less cryptic from here on out, because doing so wasn't just a quirk of his personality. Clearly, it was because the team didn't want to discuss how badly they coded all 4 of the different zombies maps. This is what happens when you're stretched thinner than the walls on our multiplayer maps. We'll be posting updates more often on the things that were promised for launch but were under-delivered with an early deadline, including the authenticity stamps, daily callings, host migration support, because it's not like that's been a thing for almost 10 years now in zombies, and split screen improvements for people that are too cheap to buy multiple copies of our amazing game. In the meantime, we fixed 60 plus different instances of crashes, including Easter egg blue screens, max ammo bugs, and even the return of Speed Cola functionality. And yes, I've seen the leaks about a disgruntled QA tester doing an AMA on Reddit, and with how many zombies bugs the community has been subject to, I'm sure he's probably ticked off at how many errors were let out into the field like any good tester should be. He did point the community in the right direction on a number of Easter eggs which had steps changed due to all of the previous issues, as well as predicting that Speed Cola would return in the title update, so I guess this was someone who worked for us after all. Speaking of perks returning, since we didn't have enough time to figure out how both Armor and Juggernog could coexist together, but now that the multiplayer and Blackout teams figured out how to separate it into different health bars for the zombies team, they'll just copy-pasta it into zombies. Yes, Nuketown was supposed to come back as a zombies experience, but with the team working on actual fixes that were magnified when big streamers started complaining about it only because it made us look really bad, we didn't have enough time to roll roll out Nuketown zombies at this time, even though it's just really a reskin of a previous zombies map. With the multiplayer map, we already promised it in November, way back before shit hit the fans, so that's why that team is stuck holding the bag. Since it's Activision, and they still somehow have the audacity to have pay-for map packs in 2018, each DLC will have a zombies map, with the first one being continuation of the Chaos storyline, with 4 all-new characters that we can monetize. I mean, you'll learn to not give a shit about, with the other DLC maps having the Ether storyline, with the 4 characters you actually want to play as, because it will make us more money that way. There is also a 4v4 zombies mode planned, but it would crash harder than Paul Walker with 8 players in AI, so that was scrapped. And yes, echoing other leaks in the past, there was also a campaign that was scrapped to make more multiplayer maps according to this tester, but that's impossible given that we just threw in 4 reskins to pad the numbers, and this campaign was canceled in mid-2017. I wonder what other games were really popular around that time. Oh yeah, PUBG and Fortnite. So draw your own conclusions as to why it was really canned.